Yellow. Size has its obvious advantages. Watch here how this massive German man holds his own with someone many recognize as the greatest Muay Thai fighter of all time, Saenchai. Of course that is open to debate, but for the most part we can all agree that this larger man does not have near the same level of skill Saenchai does, but to stand in front of him and impose his will, that is a statement in and of its own accord. Saenchai is known to take on opponents much bigger than him, but this is evidence that there are limitations to even that. Size is a very real advantage. Weight classes exist for a reason, and people cut weight in hopes to use a weight advantage over their competition because of this truth, of course. But understanding this, there is always another side to each coin. Cain Velasquez, to anyone who's followed the sport, he is undoubtedly an all-time great, a heavyweight legend who's cemented himself as royalty amongst mixed martial artists. Thus, whenever you hear the name Cain Velasquez versus anyone, even Francis Ngannou, you remember an old king who, due to your memory, you can never really count out. He was quick, relentless, ruthless. He was recognized as a swarmer, stylistically, similarly to the Diaz brothers. Not necessarily superior in a single exchange, but once they built momentum, you were unable to keep up with the pace of decisions being made, either unable to mentally process the sheer volume of exchanges or suffocating in lactic acid for that same reason. Cain Velasquez unleashed. His stand-up philosophy resembled his chain wrestling pedigree. Cross-pollinating the ideologies, there was a perfect harmony, crashing against his competitors, flirting between the two. That's what made Cain Velasquez so special. It wasn't his power, all heavyweights, when you give them technique, have power. Instead, it was the volume at which he delivered his martial philosophy. This is where Cain Velasquez found greatness. But as Sir Isaac Newton would say, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Cain Velasquez paid a heavy price to secure his greatness. The sacrifice he made for his high-volume style, it was only a matter of time till the devil took his due. After all, you could only fight the way you train. Accomplishment is an opportunity secured in a single moment, but preparation, diligent preparation is what secures that opportunity. Thus, it was not the single moment which granted victory. It was the hours dedicated till the moment presented itself. This is where Cain paid his price. There's no doubt he would have been able to execute this ruthless style if he had not prepared in ruthless fashion. To those of you who have wrestled, picking up muscle from the physical expenditure is very natural, as it is very hard on the body. But for the same reason, with so much engagement from your back, knees, damage to the supporting ligaments is also a common threat. An injury at some point is very normal. Then you combine that with the rest of mixed martial arts, the aka kickboxing philosophy. Its name, renowned for its consistent upbringing of champions, Cain, his busted knees and back, they were the price he paid for his greatness. Every martial artist has encountered injury at some point in time. Naturally, as you play with fire, there will come a time where you will get burned, even when you're careful. Now understanding this and observing Cain's intensity of performance, his injuries were inevitable. Regardless of his boundless mental toughness, there are physics to this reality, especially when you come to consider another important factor. Cain is a heavyweight.
That's the heavyweight division,
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If Cain is as relentless in training as he is in the arena, for the same reason heavyweights can't consistently generate the most force due to their higher overall mass. Naturally, Cain's heavyweight status in proportion to his ruthless style would cave in on itself. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Whether it be the power these larger men can generate with their hands or the wear they experience refining that power, there is always a disadvantage for every advantage. This is one of the reasons why you would typically see smaller fighters with a higher technical competency over larger ones. I would argue that it's not only gravity demanding a lower tax in proportion to their mass, which of course innately gives them more speed and stability to complete their techniques, but also they are less likely to get injured taking risks when training. Thus, they can innately train more. When you're a little runt, you can barely feel anything when you fall. Many of you know this from childhood. The bigger you get, the more problematic the mass becomes to itself. Now imagine the heavyweight, Cain Velasquez, falling to the canvas, training his wrestling drills over and over again. Then imagining him with his heavyweight status, having all that heavyweight force transfer back into his body, smashing that bag over and over again. The price he paid was inevitable. It was the cost of becoming eternal royalty amongst those who share this arena. Thus, when Ngannou clipped him against his shot, that one moment where he lost stability was all it took for his knee to cave in. The injury on top of his own mass, it just caved in on itself. As heartbreaking as it was, for many of us, it was not surprising in the least. Now, from observing this, we may gain an understanding far beyond the arena. For every strength, there is also a weakness accompanying it. For every weakness, a strength all the same. Do not compare yourself to another. That is a fool's endeavor, sprouting from a limited understanding. There are too many variables encompassing your condition to jump to a quick surface-level bias. Regardless of how big or small you are, where or who you are, the cards you have been given are enough. After all, if we were all the same, we would not only become useless to each other, but beyond that, without our capacity to be different, we would not have evolved beyond single-celled organisms in the first place. You have been granted the privilege of human awareness by the same virtue that makes you different. From there, your game, your sense of meaning, it is all different. Thus the way you win, your individual game, is different. Do not envy or compare yourself to the surface of another. After all, regardless of how big or small you are, how many of you could say they would endure the same pain, give up the same amount of health to become a living legend? Your cards are enough. Play them to the best of your ability and be grateful for the privilege of being different, because if you were not, none of us would have anything at all. Without the capacity to be different, the capacity to blunder, we likely would not have the awareness needed to comprehend the universe in the first place. With particles in a different state when subjected to awareness, who could say even the universe would exist as we know it? Be grateful for who you are. For you, in all you are, in your entirety, are a symbol of why there is anything at all in the first place. To that end, thank you, my brothers and sisters, for existing. If you like more from me, please subscribe and hit the notifications. Thank you if you did. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. It's good karma. And until next time, peace.